Okay, we'd like to thank our friends at Torah Anytime for making this video possible to the general public. Okay, last year we finished Perek Ches of Shar Teshuva of the Chovos Halevavos, and we discussed the very interesting fundamental question of who is on a higher level, the Baal Teshuva versus the Tzaddik who never sinned. And even though the Gemara seems to imply that Mokum Shabbat Teshuva Omed Ein Tzaddik Gama Yochel Lamud Bo, that the Baal Teshuva is actually on a higher level, the Chovos Halevavos in last Perek said that's true, but not all the time. And he went through different types of Baal Teshuva, and while there are certain types of Baal Teshuva that certainly are superior to the Tzaddik, it's not always the case. And he made the very fascinating point that the Tzaddik has a very special challenge that the Baal Teshuva doesn't have, and that challenge is haughtiness. That challenge is having this feeling that, look at how special I am, look how great I am, and that challenge of Gaiva really poses a great threat even to the Tzaddik Gomer. Okay, we're now ready for Perek Tes, which also begins with a very fundamental question. The question is, Ala Sheila, we read the Leif Tov in the bottom of the Sefer, and we do it inside, and we translate, of course, and explain. Ala Sheila im efshel lachza b'tshuva b'kol chet eloi. And certainly, being in the 3 weeks, and the focus of the 3 weeks, while we know it's sandwiched between two different fasts, and while the fast maybe take on a certain highlight of the 3 weeks, the Shavas B'Tammuz, the Tisha B'Av, of course, at the end, we know that the Rishonim tell us that the whole purpose of tainus, the whole purpose of fasting is tshuva. And that really is, it's only a means to an end. While obviously the fast is not negotiable, the purpose of the fast is not simply to refrain from eating, it's to put us in a frame of mind to return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and rectify the wrongs of why we are in this predicament even till today. So learning about tshuva is certainly appropriate any time, but especially nowadays during the 3 weeks as we approach Rosh Chodesh Av, it's certainly a wonderful opportunity to get into that mindset. So the question that he poses is, can one do tshuva from any sin? Are all sins able to be rectified and expunged, or are there exceptions? And he knows since that tshuva haba. Let me give you the following answer to this very fundamental question. And I'm not sure if we're going to get everything clarified by the end of this parak, but certainly a lot will be clarified. So sins are divided into two categories, and these are things we've probably heard of before. The first category of sin is a sin that's between a Jew and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a Jew and God. It doesn't involve anybody else. If God forbid a person has heretical thoughts and denies the existence of God, bad, evil thoughts of hurting people, and thoughts that the Torah prohibits in terms of emotions against another Jew. These are all internal. They don't really ultimately manifest themselves in any actual way. Sometimes they could, but very often they don't. But the emotion and the feeling and the thought itself, certainly a heretical thought of not believing in God, a belief in Emunah B'Hashem, is one of the fundamental mitzvahs that govern a Jew's life 24/7. There's no time that we are exempt from that mitzvah. We have a few of those mitzvahs that are constant and ever present in a Jew's life. So these types of averos are between man and between the Jew and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Umitzvos lo sasei mutos halavavos, and there are also negative prohibitions that are placed upon the heart as well. Again, privately, going hakina, jealousy. Jealousy is a horrific midah to have. Torah says osachmod, we cannot be jealous, we cannot covet. Hasina, hatred. Chemda, desire of somebody else's possessions. V'chein habi averos anasa l'idei avarim. Many other sins that are done by a person's actions, by the limbs of an individual, by the physical body, not connected at all to any other Jew. The sinner is only hurting themselves. There is nobody else involved. And essentially the Aveira is, you rebelled against God's word. God asks you to fulfill a particular commandment, you didn't fulfill it. That's one category of sin. The other category of sin, and we know about this certainly when we learn Hilchos Teshuva, the laws of Teshuva break it down into these two categories. We talk about in Tefillah Zaka, we certainly reference these two types of Averos, the one that's between just a Jew and God, and the other one that, of course, now involves other people. The famous category of bin Om L'Chavero, between one Jew and his fellow Jew. Where a person has actually affected evil and sin and iniquity upon another Jew. Whether it be to their physical well-being, or to their wealth, or to their reputation. Meaning to say, so ultimately, these sins are sins that the perpetrator themselves certainly suffers from, because I don't listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every Avera that's Ben Odom L'Chavero also has a Ben Odom L'Mokum component. Let's not forget that it's bad plus. It's not that there's one level that's to God, the other one is to a fellow Jew. It's a fellow Jew and God. It's both. So it comes out at the end. Claimer Avera Shumazik Ben Gam La'atzmo. These are sins that a person damages themselves because of what they've done. B'zeshehu Mamar Solokov. In the fact that that Jew has rebelled against the commandment of God, and other people are impacted as well. So you've got now two issues to deal with as opposed to just one. Those are the two fundamental, basic categories of mitzvahs that exist in the Torah. Now let's go back to category one. Those averos that are between a Jew and between his or her God, as long as a person is living, as long as a person has breath, as long as a person has feelings and emotions and a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and an ability to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then he can do tshuva. Then all one needs in that regard is life. If you have life, you have the ability to eradicate the sin and come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person is inspired and awakened emotionally to come back and come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to go through the processes of tshuva, the anguish and the regret and the commitment not to do it again, and a person tries to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu from that person's sin. It's interesting. The Chovos HaLevavos throughout, it seems to inject another component that you don't really find in the Rambam and the classic works in terms of this second dimension, which is not just expunging the sin, but sort of really coming back and becoming a different type of person vis-a-vis my relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Very often it's automatic. One sort of connects with the other, but it seems to be specific focus. I want to come back. The Avera has created a distance between me and God. I want to close that distance. I want to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you look at the technicalities of tshuva, typically in the Sfarim, it's sort of very cold and calculated, focused on I don't mean cold in a way you don't need emotion, but the point is it's just very clearly defined. From the point of view is you need the charata, you need to feel bad about what you've done, you need to commit not to do it again, you need to articulate the sin, and you have to separate from the sin. There's a aziva sachet, so there's leaving the sin and committing not to do it again, the feeling bad, and the vidui. And none of those really speak to the issue of, well, what do you feel about HaKadosh Baruch Hu right now? What do you feel about my relation, about how I am and how I connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu?
It stopped. I think the battery went out.
When did that happen, you know?
Just right just now.
Okay, so maybe there is another battery.
This is probably battery.
What is this? Is this also?
Yeah, I think that is a second battery.
This is that. We were trying to find a plug to see if we could just plug it in while you were.
Oh.
But yeah, here. We just changed it. We didn't see a plug, so. Can I make this? Oh.
You can take it off, right?
I think this is the battery.
It should be, yeah, that's what they said.
We'll come to that.
Apparently not.
Maybe if it's easy enough. Maybe I can do it. Okay.
So where should I pick it up from?
I would say a couple, like a about a minute before.
Yeah, okay. So what I was talking about,
The light's not on though.
Right.
Like it was before.
Is there a plug?
It's not working.
Is it a plug? Yeah. Is it long enough?
Probably
I'll
not.
get an extension cord.
so what's the problem now?
The other battery, I guess it's not.
Has it been recharged or whatever?
Oh, it is. That was actually now worked. Maybe just wasn't that one. Okay, this one's fine. This has 3 out of 4.
Judy, it's okay. Yeah.
So we,
Because before here, it was little right there before.
So I think I just have to push record now.
so let me just give me a second to.
It just wasn't on.
Okay, so
Okay.
So again, the Averis that are governed by the laws of Bin Adam Lamokom, he said, the Chazal says and explains, one can return Takadosh Baruch Hu efshel achote lazem and b'tshuva kolot shuchai. As long as a person's alive, the person can do tshuva because I have the ability to feel remorse. I have the ability to come back to Takadosh Baruch Hu. I don't need anybody else. It's just between me and God. As long as a person is inspired and motivated to do tshuva by the fact that they have transgressed, and a person tries to come back. And as we had spoken about, it's interesting how he injects this additional component. It is not just the classical aziva sechet, leave the sin, kabbalah loss, accept upon yourself to do tshuva, to not sin again, to have charata, to have the remorse and the regret, and of course the vidui, and to have the confession to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So generally, when you learn the Rambam and learn Shari Tshuva, you see these components. And obviously the Shar Tshuva elaborates more, but these are components that seem to speak to the sin and the fact that I will never do this again. They don't speak to where do I stand vis-a-vis my relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Here, subtly, the Chovos HaLevavos is adding, Umishtadil lo shuv el boro me'avoina. I want to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's, in a sense, the 2 brachas we have every day in Shemon Esrei. We have the Hashivenu, we have the Slachlanu. So when we think about tshuva, we generally focus on the slachlanu, that please, I feel terrible, please expunge the sin from my record. Okay, that's one aspect. But he seems to sort of combine tshuva to the second aspect of the hashivenu. Where are you vis-a-vis your relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? You have to want to come back. And I think we're going to see this concept later on as well. So on level 1, on Avera number 1, the key issue is, as long as you're alive, you can do tshuva. Vishuras hadin no senes. Possible to put here on a little bit. Yeah, the vishuras hadin no senes, and in a sense, it's proper and fitting. Shiasa tshuva me avon biosa ofen shechatabo. Another additional component is when you're doing tshuva, and this also speaks to the point we just made. It's not just enough to focus on the particular avera and say, okay, I want to get rid of it. You have to undo the damage that the Avera did to your soul, to your neshama. It was pogim in neshama. So the Shuras hadin no senes, he says, sort of logic and propriety dictates sheyasa tshuva me'avam osa ofen shechatabo, that you should do tshuva in the very same manner, in the very same area that you sin. So for imu yochalasos, if you can do it, dahainu, meaning what? Imu over alachas me mitzvos losa say hamutos halavavos. If, for example, the person sinned. And again, this is the first category, in a heart matter, in a matter dealing with my thoughts and my emotions and my feelings. Okay, so you want to do tshuva on that, go and show you a low levra, and a very bad attitude about people, just very mean-spirited, oshihira machshavas resha, thinking bad thoughts, as we know, are prohibited in many situations. Oshavar latira, there's a harboring of ill will that took place. Kina, jealousy, sinna, hatred, averos, almost or similar averos. So this was my sin, and now I want to go back and do tshuva for that sin. Okay? So logic and propriety dictate that the tshuva that you do for these types of eros, that you have to change your heart. It's not just enough to feel bad that you had a bad heart. Where's your heart now? Well, so I won't feel those bad thoughts. Okay, but are you changing your heart? Are you making it better? Are you purifying your heart? Are you making it into a good heart? Do you now look at people differently? Or do you still have this sort of the same feeling, but you sort of subjugate it and you sort of suppress it, and you say, I don't want to go there. So it's very nice you don't want to go there, but you haven't really changed the kind of person that you are. The Chazal Avos seems to put tshuva into this category of this metamorphosis that needs to happen to a person in becoming a different type of Jew. Get that Aveira out of your bloodstream, get it out of your system. That's a whole other dimension that we don't see in the other Rishonim. Okay, so you have to make your heart good. You should be happy, right? So you feel terrible that every time you hear a simcha, you're so jealous, you feel bad, you don't want them to have the simcha. So you want to do tshuva. Well, part of the tshuva, according to the Chovos HaLevavos, is now work on being happy that they have a simcha. Not just don't feel bad, work on being happy. Work on having that good heart. You have to make your heart into a good heart. You should love to see good things happen to other people. And that they should be forgiven and you should forgive them for whatever sin they might have caused against you. Don't harbor ill will. People hold grudges, and all of that is part of an attitude that's keneged. It's opposite to what the HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. So if we want to make our heart better, then you got to actually work on doing those kinds of things. And if, let's say, the sin was a sin of a physical nature, that you did a physical act, a person ate that which was prohibited. So God forbid there was an illegal act of adultery or anything along illicit act in the area of arayis, of sexually prohibited relationships. Or the person transgressed, God forbid, Shabbos and Moed. Person fell prey to this temptation of breaking Shabbos. I need my technology or whatever it was, and I broke and I collapsed in this area and I fell. Oshish balashek, or a person swore falsely. So these are all averis of a physical nature. You did something, you ate something, you acted in an inappropriate fashion, you said an inappropriate statement. All of these things, as a tshuva shel tzricha lios ba'osa inyan of osa davar atzmo shechatabo. Very interesting point. Again, something that we still don't see it in the Rambam, in the sense, and when the Mishnah Berurah also mentions, he brings down the Gidrei Tshuva, quotes the Rambam, doesn't quote this dimension. Very fascinating. Certainly this is an enhancement of tshuva according to anyone, even if you want to argue that it's not required based on the Shulchan Aruch, based on the Rambam. However, certainly it would definitely be an incredible enhancement that the tshuva needs to be in that particular matter that you sinned in that particular area that you fell in. This is where you need to rectify the wrong. Klaimar, meaning to say, turn it around. Act in the exact opposite way. And to have a focus and have a thought process, I'm doing this for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm turning myself around. I want to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I did some terrible things. So, for example, he brings on the bottom, if you look at the Pischei Lev on the bottom, Kagon Imochal Dvar Masurim, if let's say the prohibition was you caved in, you just couldn't resist, and you went into a McDonald's, Rahman al-San, you ordered something non-kosher. Yigers atzma gam machil dvar mutarim alulim lavi osol deachil dvar masurim. Try to make fences for yourself. Try to rectify the wrong by not just feeling bad about what you did, but making sure that you move into an area of watching what goes into your mouth, so you shouldn't fall into the trap. I guess if we're so used to just eating whatever we want, then when we're going to be desirous of something that's prohibited, it'll be much harder. But if we train ourselves to control ourselves, then we're in that mode where we're exercising control of our actions. Imchata barais, if God forbid there was an illicit relationship that took place, then one should sanctify a person, the person themselves by separating from that which even is mutter, right? Nothing wrong by learning from the Goyim, right? What did that governor, the governor of Mississippi was running for the governorship, and there's a female reporter that asked, "Can I have an interview?" And he said, "Well, sure, you can have an interview, but there needs to be another person in the room. Okay, there needs to be a third person, a man in the room when that takes place." And the lady reporter gets all insulted, and he says, "This was a pact that I made with my wife, very similar to what Pence has done for his whole career." He says, "It's a pact I made with my wife that I'm not going to be secluded with another woman ever. So don't take it personally. It's something that's between me and my wife. It's a sacred commitment that we made to one another. So that's going above and beyond. Technically, again, there might be permissible to be eating in a restaurant, but is it within the gedarim of kedusha to eat in a restaurant with being interviewed or having a business meeting with a woman one-on-one? It doesn't have that sensitivity of what the kedusha is all about. So these are all areas that a person should sort of push it to the other end to come back to where they needed to be in the first place when a person did something wrong in these areas. And again, the same thing with Shabbos and Yontif. If this is the area, then sanctify Shabbos and Yontif to a greater degree so that there should be a greater sensitivity and a greater appreciation for what Shabbos and Yontif is, so that you will never go back to that particular area. So it's another dimension that seems to be very much focused upon by the Chovos Havavos, and it makes sense because it shouldn't just be that, I'm expunging the sin. What about the residual impact of that sin upon you, and how do you change the nature that it sort of left upon you in the way you approach life? And that's where you have to sort of go to the other extreme. As calls the efshal adam lasses calls man shuchai. All this can be done by a person privately, as long as they're alive. They can do this. As long as they're in full recognition, Baruch Hashem, they have their faculties. When a person is motivated to return to God, to purify themselves from sin, if they bow in front of their Creator. About this Baal Tshuva of category 1, where all that person did was sins between a Jew and a Kadosh Baruch Hu. About that person, Shol Melech said, Im chachamta, if you're wise to come back to me and do tshuva, chachamta lach. You've benefited yourself. You have taken care of your problem and your issue, and you've done yourself a tremendous favor. Because now, Bez Hashem, you go into Olam Haba, after 120 years, you'll have a clean slate. That's relatively easy, and that's not easy because we have to work hard to go to the other side to eradicate the sin, to have these feelings, and to have the charot and the remorse. So it's not easy, but at least it's very much self-contained. It's doable because you know exactly what the mission is, and you see it in front of you. This is where you have to go. Where it gets much more complicated is the next category, and we know about this. But sins where the Jew not just sins to God, but sins also to another Jew. There are many reasons why this becomes extremely difficult. Now notice he doesn't say impossible. So there is a ray of hope, but as we go through the various reasons why it's difficult, we will see that becomes a higher and higher mountain to climb, and the real message is, and this is sort of the mountain that we are climbing at this particular time of the year. During the 3 weeks, it's this mountain, it's the Omer Chavera mountain, it's the Midos, it's the Lashon Hara, we'll see. This is the mountain that we have to climb to do full tshuva for the Avera that got us into this particular position. As the Gemara tells us, Sinas Chidam and Lashon Hara, as the Mefarshim add, are the causes for the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash. So what are the reasons why it's so hard? Why is it that when you bring in another Jew into the equation and you've damaged another Jew in the process of the Avera, tshuva becomes so much more difficult? So one of them is I want to return the item. I stole an item from somebody. I don't know where the person is. I can't find the one I stole from. Oshu kvar meis, or maybe he passed away already. Vulo makros yoshva. I don't know where the heirs are. I don't know where his kids are to be able to give it back to the kids. Oshu nimsa makom rochok, or he moved to some far off place that he's in Switzerland somewhere. Who knows where he is? And I can't reach him. I don't know how to get him. V'yotam, another reason, I don't have the money. Okay, I'm not in the same position. I was a ganef back in the good old days. I made a lot of money, but I lost it all. Okay, and truth of the matter, sometimes you see when people do tshuva, very often you see people go down in their wealth through the tshuva process. I don't know if that's a coincidence or something that's involved in hashkacha, but everything's a hashkacha pratis. But there seems to be some kind of a reason why that does happen. But the point is that if I'm not in that position, I don't have the money to pay back. What am I going to do? And you can't do tshuva unless you return the stolen item or the value of the stolen item. V'yotam. Another reason, you caused me tremendous pain. You caused me tremendous anguish. You stole from me. So I've been paying physically. I've been paying monetarily. Who says the person's going to be mochel? I don't want to be mochel. You caused me too much anguish. Hashem harash or the shem ra. You said rumors about me. You spoke about me. You spread negative things about me. I'm not going to forgive you for that. So we can't guarantee being able to do tshuva when a component of that tshuva is a mechila we have to get from the other Jew. The old time they nigzal. Sometimes I don't even know who I stole from. Or I don't know how much I stole. Let's say a person stole from a bunch of people. A person breaks into a dormitory and steals stuff that in a dorm. I don't know who I'm stealing from. I don't know who's there. I just know that I took 12 backpacks and I ran away. So he stole from a lot of people in the city or a lot of people in the country. I don't recognize them. I don't know how much it was that I took at the end. I did it on a mass scale, and it's impossible for me to calculate what exactly I took and how much I take from each person. Okay, so also, then you can't really do full rectification. Can't do full tshuva. V'yotam they shall upon him hagzelis arva becomes gedol pikama sharchusha. Sometimes what I stole becomes much more devastating for me to return it than the original item was worth. Because let's say that particular component became part of something much bigger. And I can't extricate it from the particular place where it is. It'll cost me. Okay, I stole a beam from you, and it now becomes a central beam of my entire home. When I take that out, everything's going to collapse. Okay, I can't. I won't do it. I don't know where I'm going to live. But in a way, you have to now. Even though he's going to quote an opinion that says nowadays you can just return the money, it's a second-rate tshuva. It's a second-rate return. The best way to do it is to actually return the item directly if you have it. And if you can't, you can pay back the money. But let's say a person's compelled to do it right. I don't want to follow Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel made a special decree that you can return the money instead of the actual item. But if this fellow says that once he does tshuva, I'm going to do it right, well, but now because he wants to do it right, he's not going to do it at all because of the fact that I don't want to destroy my whole house, or any other type of situation where taking this particular item will cause a domino effect of tremendous loss, then sometimes a person's not going to be willing to do it. He says, like we learned in Gemara Gittin, Gozal Morish Ubino Babira, you steal a beam and you put into a big fancy palace. Beishamai takes the hardline approach, knock down the house, find that beam, return the beam, and I don't care about your house. You did the Aveira, don't now benefit from the Aveira, and paying back money is not enough. Beis Hillel says, otherwise people are not going to want to return the item. You can give back the money. You just give back what it's worth, keep the beam in your house, and everything is good. They takaras hashavim because of a decree to motivate people to return lost items, or I shouldn't say lost, stolen items. And this way we didn't make you take the beam out. But there are people, as he explains on the bottom, there are people who might not want to do that, or don't feel they don't want to go the cheap route. Well, giving back money would certainly be better than waiting for, I don't know what you're going to wait for, but the point is, there are people who might not do that. That will limit a person from being willing to actually do that tshuva, give back the actual item. Therefore, at this point, I haven't given back the money, and I haven't given back the item. So you got nothing at this point, no tshuva at all. So in these situations, for all these types of reasons, when it comes to a loss and a damage between one Jew and another, doing tshuva could sometimes be extremely difficult, extremely complicated. Okay, so that's one category and one group of reasons why tshuva for the Beit Adam Chaver is difficult. But let's keep going. There are other types of averos which are difficult for a Jew to return from, for a person to do full tshuva. Let's say there are certain averos that they are averos based on habit. They have become part of our modus operandi. They're just part of us. Certainly, I think some people might say Lashon Hara, God forbid, might be in this category. I think some people might argue that you can't ask me to not talk during davening. It's just too hard. I'm used to talking during davening. It's already part of my whole makeup. You ask me to change everything and now not talk during davening. You're asking me not to, So I'm sure we can think of different types of averos that the habit of doing them really entrenches it into our nature, into our personality, and makes it very difficult to eradicate it. Therefore, ad shamai, what happens? If a person is very much used to doing a particular avera, ad shamai sarah nidbak boy, it clings to that person. It's you. It becomes your identity. It becomes your personality. We are creatures of habit. The Chavetz Chaim says in the Sefer Chavetz Chaim that one of the reasons why speaking Lashon Hara it's not speaking Lashon Hara is so difficult is because no one stopped us when we were younger. So we came home and our parents want to know this and that and who got suspended and who got into trouble, in class. And that's how we're used to saying things. And now later on, when we find out about the laws of Lashon Hara, we've already been ingrained into just sort of saying whatever we want, which is why the chinuch at the early stage is so critical to change that. But we are creatures of habit, and just because we find out something, it takes a special koyach to eradicate that. My Rebbe Zatzal, Rabbi Leibowitz of Chavetz Chaim, he grew up in Europe. His early years were in Europe. He moved to America in, I think 1926 or so. But they say that he was like a chain smoker. His father also many Jews in Europe. Smoking was considered completely normal and natural. And they say that the day that he found out that it was bad for you, that doctors have determined that it's bad for you. I don't know what year this was, but it was, early on in his life. They say he put the cigarette down, put it out, never went back to it. Now, some people can do that. They have that inner strength to just, I hear something, it becomes usher, that's it, I'm done. How many people can do that? So many people know the information, they've gone to doctors, they've seen the x-rays of the black lung that they're looking at, and yet they invite to go back, they finish the appointment, and they're out smoking a cigarette in the hallway. So because things that become part of who we are become very difficult to eradicate. So this would be the problem, that if a person gets very much entrenched in averos, then it becomes very hard to get it out of your system. Right? Kamosha Kosav, we're on the next page. Kamosha Kosav, Limdu L'shodam Daber Sheker, Have Nilu. They taught their tongues to speak falsehoods. They went after sin. They went after iniquity, and that became who they were. That became part of Klal Yisrael's persona. Another pasuk in Yirmiyahu says, "Hayafoch kushi oro." Right, the color of your skin. If a person's black skinned, any other color, no matter what you do, that's who you are. Right? We have now the newfangled world where I feel white or I feel yellow, but that's not the way it used to be, or not the way it really is. You are how you were born, and the fact that you want to change, it's not going to happen. Hayafoch kushi oro, Okay, can a black person change their skin? V'nomer Chaba Barosov, can a leopard change their spots? We are who we are. We are how we were born. And just like, it's an amazing thing that what the Yirmiyahu is saying to us, just like the pigmentation of our skin and the spots on a leopard's body are unchangeable, right? And part of the absolute natural fabric and makeup of that thing. Do you think you can just turn your ways around and become good from all your evil ways? It's very, very hard. Extremely difficult. That's why habits are so critical, and getting into the right habits is something that we have to work very hard at. So that's another reason why it's difficult, because if you train yourself this way, it's going to be difficult to turn it around. Now, okay. Now this, interestingly enough, you'd argue, doesn't have to do with Ben Adam l'chaver is Ben Adam l'mako. This l'chara would be true for any avera that we do, is if we develop bad habits. So he doesn't make it clear. But I think that what I'm saying is correct. And this is now moving into a different category, where he discussed Ben Adam l'chaver already in the last paragraph. Now we're saying there are additional averos which are not uniquely connected to the Ben Adam l'chavero component, but they are still very hard to eradicate because of the nature of the aver. And if it gets into our bloodstream, it gets into our personality, then it's going to be very difficult. Okay, that's one. Another one. This is an unthinkable one, but one that unfortunately could happen. And we have heard horror stories where it has happened, that a Jew kills another Jew. A Jew kills someone, okay, and you killed an innocent person. Whether the person killed them with their hands directly, overtly. Maybe you just caused their death because you told the government about them, and they responded and they killed him. They gave him the death sentence. Certainly in the Russian and certainly in all these oppressive, horrific governments over the course of the centuries, there are times when that's why malshinus is such a horrific aver. If you're malshin, if you speak to the government official about another Jew, it's considered the most severe aver. So there are many ways that a Jew could cause the death of another Jew. How are you going to undo it? The person's not here. The person's dead. So we know what happened with Doeg Adomi, the horrific story about Doeg telling Shaul that the city of Nov were harboring David HaMelech. First, the Rechilus caused the death. Many of the Kohanim were wiped out based on Doeg telling Shaul this is what happened, so that caused the death of many. Then he killed them himself, and Doeg was asked to finish the job. Doeg went around the area and literally afflicted the Kohanim with death. He killed many Kohanim that day. So here's a man who did it both ways. He did it physically and he did it verbally. And he was responsible for many Jews' deaths. So how do you really do? Now it's interesting, he doesn't say you can't. He just says it's very difficult. I mean, I guess somehow if we can, if a person could so radically change who they are and go through the steps of tshuva, the way we mentioned it before, the leaving of the sin and the remorse and the commitment not to do it again, and the vidui, with sort of almost like a transformational kind of situation. We have cases in the Gemara where a person recognized what they did wrong and they literally died in their tshuva, and the Gemara says that they went into the next world. It doesn't say they were guilty of murder. It does not say that, but there does seem to be this idea that I'm a new person and I can sort of almost change myself completely. So it's hard to know, because on the one hand you'd say maybe you can never do tshuva for murder. Yet we have the Gemara in Gittin that talks about the Roman general who killed thousands upon thousands of Jews and ultimately did tshuva and became a Jew and had great people come from him. So it's We should never know from it. We should never deal with this issue, but it does seem to be something to think about whether he means it's just very hard or it's actually impossible to do tshuva for murder. V'yachas meni, another one, is shehu garam la'abedus mamono. He causes a person shechaver adei rechilasa. Through rechilos, through lashon hara, person loses their wealth. Nei shaloi meilu la tshuva achifais his chavero. We know that tshuva doesn't work until you actually ask your friend for forgiveness. Or they mamon, or they shachnias, either because of the money that I damaged you, or they shachnias atzmo lefanov. Or they mamon, meaning that you have to return the money to that person. That's one way of asking for forgiveness. That's if money's involved. Or they shachnias atzmo lefanov vakish menu l'sachlo v'limchlo al cheto, and to just simply humble oneself and go over to a person and subjugate oneself to that individual and say, please, forgive me, I hurt you, I damaged you, I spoke hard about you, when we know how difficult that is to face up to somebody. But a person needs to do that, and that's very, very difficult. We don't know, even like we said before, whether it's really going to work. So if I cause a person monetary loss, it's really not clear that one can do tshuva because you have to fulfill the monetary aspect and the mechila aspect. Moshe Kosev, V'sha'ochu share Ami v'ayram aleya mivshitu. They did horrific things. They hurt other Jews. They ate their skin. They ripped their skins off from them, and they clearly Micha is saying that they did horrific acts. And then what happens? Ozi zakul Hashem v'yanosam. They call out HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who they recognize they did something wrong, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu will not respond to them and clear them because you're missing a very important component. The people that you damaged, and you gotta clean that slate. And how do you do that in situations where you're not going to necessarily get the response that you want? So, if you cause ibud mamon, you cause the loss of money through rechilus, it becomes extremely problematic. Let's say, if God forbid, a person had an illicit relationship. Okay, we hear horror stories. And a mamzer is born. So you not only have the illicit relationship that was transgressed, but you have a child that resulted from that. So it's a living being who can actually become a great person. A mamzer Talmid Chacham is actually more respected than a Kohen Gadol Amoritz. So it isn't that the mamzer doesn't have a life, but the sin you're looking at is right here. You look at what you've done. You've caused this young man or this young woman to have so many challenges, and the sin is living, walking testimony to what you did. This horrific stain cannot be just erased by mere tshuva. You have this mamzer walking the streets and living in this world. You can't rectify the wrong. It is lewdness and it's a horrific punishable avera. Because the fire consumes until it's devoured, till its end. They rebelled against the Kodesh Baruch Hu, says Hosea, because they begot strange children. So these are, again, situations where how do you just undo it? You can't. And therefore, you've got so much more of a hurdle. Does it say it can never be undone, no matter what you've done? Like I said, there are indicators that there are certain types of tshuva that have incredible power, but the idea that it becomes overwhelmingly difficult is certainly very, very clear. Okay, I think we should stop here, Bez Hashem, and pick it up next Tuesday night. Thank you so much.